So, I'm Zach. If you weren't able to make the Anki meeting we had today for mess, or if you were there, you know that the recording didn't work anyway. So I'm going to do a brief overview of everything we talked about during the meeting, and hopefully this will be able to serve you guys as a quick Anki guide for everything you need to know. So to start, I just want to get into like the settings that you typically would see and are important. So if you click on your deck and go to options, the first thing we're going to be looking at is steps. So basically, it's going to be in minutes. The first number is going to be the number of minutes of until how long you see that card again if you get that card wrong. Whereas the second number is going to be how many minutes until you see that card again if you get the card correct. The new cards you make, if you're making your own card, can be shown in a random order or the order they were made in. That's not really that important, it's preference. Number of new cards per day, again, is preference. Typically, you're going to probably want it more than 20. It depends how you do your cards, though. The graduating interval, this is going to be the number of days. If you get that card correct and you just hit the space bar again, that's how many days it'll be until you see that card again, or how many days it'll be to add on. So say the first day you get the card correct, you'll see that card again tomorrow. If you get it correct again tomorrow, it's going to add another day. So you'll see that card again in 2 days, not the next day. Whereas easy interval is going to be how many days it adds on if you get the card correct and you select the easy option. And you can set these numbers to whatever you want. In my deck, I have it set to 4 for easy and I think 3 for graduating. This selection here, the berry related new cards until the next day, what this does is if you click it, let's say you make a card that has 3 different clozes on it. If you have this selected and you're doing your cards and you get to that card, it'll show you one cloze and you get it correct. It's not going to show you the 2 other clozes that day. So typically you want to have this unchecked that way so you can do all your new cards that day and move them into the next day. Whereas this berry related reviews until the next day, it does the same thing except for cards in your review pile, not your new pile. This one I do have checked just because I want to spread out the cards I'm seeing the day. So let's say I made all the cards associated with one lecture that day. I want to get through all those new cards that day, so I don't have the new one unchecked. But then as I go throughout the block, I don't want to see all of those cards on one day. I want it spread out, so I'm seeing other cards from that event. Maximum reviews per day. These are how many reviews Anki will show you per day. You can cap this to whatever you want, how many you can set, or how many you feel like you can do in a day. Or you can just uncap it by setting it to like 9,000 or so. These two aren't really important. The maximum interval, this is the max number of days it'll send a card out. So let's say, as of right now, it's set to this many days. So if I keep getting a card correct over and over and over again, and it keeps adding these many days to it every time I get it correct, it'll go up to this amount of days until I see it again. This is a little high. So let's say if you were doing your cards and you set it to 20, this is the max number of days it'll take until you see that card again, no matter how many times you get that card correct. And say you have it set to 20, you see the card and you get it correct, but you have an exam, your exam's next week, and you know you want to see that card again because it was kind of iffy or so, you can set this to 7, and then you'll see the card again in 7 days rather than 20, even if it's maxed out. The only thing really important here to note is the leech threshold. If you have this, so let's say it's set to 8, and you get a card wrong 8 times in that day, what this is going to cause is Anki is going to be like, oh, you're not getting this card right. I'm going to tag it for you so you know which cards are causing you issues. I recommend setting it to tag. If you set it to suspend and you get it wrong 8 times in a row, Anki is just going to be like, oh, you're never going to get this card right, and I'll just suspend it so you never see it again. You could do that if you want, but you'll just know you'll never see that card again. So it's up to preference. Those are the main things that I wanted to mention in options. Next, what I want to talk about is going to be Anking real fast. So this is what Anki is going to look like more or less. There's a couple add-ons I have in here, but this is what it'll look like when you first get it. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to Anking, which you can do. It should be in the Word document. You're going to scroll to the bottom, and you'll download the deck. And it's a big deck, so it's going to take a long time to download. You open it up, and Anki's going to process it and put it in. And then the reason we're doing this is Anking has specific, not only does it have cards, pre-made cards in it, which you can use if you want. You don't have to, obviously, if you're going to make your own cards. But I would still recommend opening Anking at least once and then suspending all the cards within it. Because that way it will give you certain card types that you're going to want to use later. So here's Anking. This is what it looks like. It's got the main deck and then a bunch of sub decks within it. We're just going to go ahead and suspend it right now. Well, I guess I'll make note. So I only see 20 new cards right now, right? If I go to options and I set this new cards per day to 200, well, now it's going to show me 200, right? So that's what that does. But what we're going to do, we're going to go to browse. We're going to select on Anking. Going to hit Command A, and that will select all the cards in the deck. And I'm just going to suspend it. This means I will never see these cards in my rotation as I go throughout the day. So I'm never going to see these cards now. Okay, so let's talk about making a card first. So you can hit Add, and we're going to select Cloze Anking is what I typically use, and you're going to have all these boxes. And you're not, just ignore the snowflakes for now, but you're going to have all these boxes. Now, let's make a card. So my name is Zach Dewar, okay? Now, Cloze is the typical card people use, the typical card type. What you do is you select the word that you want to be the flashcard, more or less. And you can either hit this little ellipses bracket thing up here in the corner, or you can just hit Command-Shift-C. And what that's going to do is make this close, right? And we can close out that, and then we'll add this card. And hit study, and this is what a close looks like. So it closed out two cards. When you make two closes, it makes two separate cards, right? So my name is Zach, and then here's the interval. So remember, if you selected to 4, it's going to show it 4, or easy, 4 days. Good, and then the next one, Dewar, good. Well, let's say I want these both on the same card. Well, let's just make them the same number, right? So instead of C1, C2, let's have them C1, C1. Now the card is going to look like this, and they'll both be closed out. Hit space, and they'll show both. Well, now let's say I don't think I can, when I say my name is, I don't think I can figure these out. Let's say I want a hint. If you put a double colon and whatever you want after that, this is going to give you a hint. So now the card is going to look like this. My name is first name, last name, hit it, and then it'll be Zach Dewar. So that's how you make a general close card. The way cards are typically organized is through tags. And there's an add-on I'll talk about later. I'm going to butcher the name, but called hierarchical tags. I can't pronounce it. It's hard, I promise. But basically, this is the way you want to organize tags. So here at the bottom is your tag section. If I type in test here and hit close, now when I hit space, you can see the tag here at the bottom. If I go to browse, and we'll just ignore all this, here's that test tag, and you can see the two cards I made in it. Well, let's say I want even better organization. So test, do the double colon again, and then type in week 1, okay? And then close. Now it'll show that tag at the bottom, and if I go to browse, here's my test, but now there's this arrow here. Hit that, week 1, and those are gonna be the same cards. So let's say you are in GI section, so this is GI, and the week 1 And then if you double colon again, you can do, let's say it was a lecture. Double colon again, let's say the lecture was called cancer. Okay, so now we close out, go back to browse, test week 1, and I think I have to restart Anki for it to work, but then it'll have another arrow here, and you can, oh no, I'm sorry, here it is. GI, right? I forgot to rename it. GI, week 1, lecture, and the lecture's name was cancer. And you can do it for independent learnings or different weeks or whatever, but that's how you add tags. Okay, so that's a typical Cloze card. The other important kind of card to talk about is image occlusion, and this is also an add-on, which I'll show how to add very shortly. But basically, let's say you have a screenshot of something, and then you see this little picture here, and you click that, and it'll add whatever was in your clipboard into this interface here. All you have to do is drag over whatever you want to close out, okay? Then, if you can hit, there's a couple options here. You can hit hide, well here, hide one, guess one. If I click that and go to close, and I go in here, it's gonna hide one of the closes I made, and you're only guessing one. See, and then it'll do the next one. So it made 3. So that's what hide one, guess one is. Let's say I edit this card and I want to make it hide all guess one. Okay, and I edit these cards. Now it's going to show, it's going to hide all of them, but you're still only guessing the red box. So if I hit space, it'll do that. You can go here and toggle and see what was under the rest, right? So that's the difference between that. Now let's say I go back to image occlusion and I want all of these hidden at the same time. If I click on one, hold down shift and click on the other two, it's going to select all of them. Hit G and it groups them. You can also just double click or right click and you can hit group or ungroup through there. Now these should be all grouped so they're connected. And if I hit edit card, it's going to delete the 3 cards I made previously because they were all separate, and it's going to create one new one where all the closes are together. Hit yes, and now the card looks like this, and you've got 3 closes in one. Hit space, and they're all 3 connected. Okay, so that's Cloze, that's image occlusion, and that's tags. Those are the main ways you're going to get through Anki. Now, the only way you can do things like that is if you have add-ons. So the add-ons they should be in the Word document, but let me just show you quickly how to actually do them. So let's open up the Word document real fast, and let's add, this is the tag one, which allows you to create a tag under a tag like I showed. Click on this, you go down to the bottom, and you've got this code. You copy the code and go back to Anki, and you click on Tools, go in the top left, go to Add-ons, click on that, and then you're going to click on Get Add-on, and here's the code. You just copy, or you just paste it in and hit OK. I've already got it in, so I'm not going to bother. But that'll add the option to do these, where you can tag within a tag. Okay? So that's that add-on. Frozen fields. So what frozen fields tag does, let's say I have a card here, and I have a really good reference slide for all of these different cards I'm going to be making. So if I go in and I put this here, and I want this to stay here, I click the little snowflake. So typically what happens is if I make a card and I hit add, oops, sorry, let me close that. And I hit add, everything's going to delete. If I hit this snowflake and hit add, now it stays, okay? So that's typically what I do is in the lecture notes section, I like to put the learning objectives for the event and freeze it. So as I'm making cards, I'll have learning objectives on every card if I want to go back and look at that. So that's frozen fields. Close out of that. Next is heat map What heatmap does is just this little thing. It's kind of more like a fun thing, so you can see how many cards you do on average, your streak, stuff like that, and it'll fill up as you go through cards. It's more of just like a fun little challenge yourself type of thing. Image occlusions I showed you, it was this, so you can close off things on pictures. Delay overdue cards. So what delay overdue cards is for is, say you get behind on a day or something came up and you weren't able to do any cards that day, but you don't want it to keep stacking up cards. If you go in here and hit delay overdue, and if you have an overdue card, you can just click yes and it'll bring it back to that day it was due. So for example, let's say yesterday I didn't do any of my cards. And today I want to set my deck back a day. If I click on delay overdue, it'll say I have 1 day due of over cards. If I click yes, it'll set it back to how many cards I had due yesterday rather than today by missing a day. You can also hit no and just select how many days you want to set it back. Or if for some reason you're really ahead and you want to keep going ahead, if you put negative before, it'll set you to tomorrow's cards. Delay overdue kind of defeats the purpose of Anki, but if for some reason you want it, there it is. And then the last add-on I want to mention is the Amboss add-on. It's a paid add-on, so you have to have a subscription to Amboss for it to work, or you can use their free trial. What this one does, so if I put in something like diabetes is bad, and I close out diabetes, click add, and I go to that card. If I can get to it. Okay, so here's diabetes is bad, and I click space. See, it's underlined here, and I scroll over it. It's going to send you directly to the Amboss directory for diabetes. If I click on this, it'll open up in the side, and you can just send it right to the Amboss website where you can read everything you want about diabetes. For this one to work, though, you need to have the Amboss subscription, which in my mind is totally worth it. And then last thing I want to mention is these other special fields, which you can do special things with. So let's add a card real fast. So here's the normal text here. If you put something in extra and you add it, what that card is going to look like, oh, sorry, I need to make it close. What that card is going to look like is this. So if you won't see anything beforehand, but if you hit space, it'll show the text, which was that first box, and then extra will pop up below it. You can do the same with all these other ones. So the reason these exist is from the Anking deck, and they'll put in resources from Pathoma and Boards and Beyonds and stuff. But if you're making your own cards, it's good to, if you want to like put things below it. You can also put things like, say if you put something in lecture notes, for example, what this will do when you make it, it'll hit a little button here, and you click on that, and it'll show whatever you wrote in lecture notes. So you've got text, extra shows up right as you hit space, lecture notes shows up if you click on the button, and you can make it go away. So that's how you make decks. Oh, last thing I'll mention is a sub deck. So let's say here's my normal deck. If you want to make a sub deck, all you do is drag this under it, and it'll set it under. And that's for more organization. So that is creating decks, options. We've got the tags, add-ons. That should be everything. If anybody else has questions after watching this or the sheet doesn't explain it well, we'll have emails for both Shelby DeWard as well as myself, Zach Dewyer, in the bottom of it. You can send us an email for anything. Hopefully this was helpful. And have a good time in genetics.